You know, Todd Frazier smelled like pH or something. You know, something ridiculous like that.
It is.
I mean, just from a baseball sense, I can't tell you what's up with them. I mean, listen, the whole team is supposedly built around pitching. We saw what happened with Matt Harvey. Syndergaard's hurt, and he was getting hit anyway when he wasn't hurt. DeGrom is terrific, and if I were him, I'd be begging for them to trade me somewhere in July 31st.
To the Yankees.
You know, the Yankees, yeah, right. Yeah, because the Mets would love to see Jacob DeGrom go to a World Series with the Yankees. Yes, Mets fans would love that as well.
If it brings back Clint Frazier and let's see,
who would you want?
I don't want.
Who would you want? Clint Frazier, Gleyber Torres, Aaron Judge, and Severino. How's that? Sound good?
Gleyber would be nice.
I'm trying to think if I want. I don't really want to give up Justice Sheffield, but I might have to.
That wouldn't be enough. Wouldn't be enough. You're giving away the only reason to go to the ballpark. I mean, at this point.
Yeah, but that's only every 5 days.
If I were a fan, I would only go when DeGrom is pitching.
That's true. That 100% true. There's no reason to go any other day.
That's very true.
Unfortunately, I had to this past weekend.
Well, yeah, they pay you to be there.
Yeah, that's true. I never complain about a seat I'm getting paid to sit in. You're absolutely right.
Exactly. And the other reason that a Met fan would want to go to the game is when the Reds come to town and Matt Harvey pitches against them.
Right. And of course, they'll probably throw a no-hitter that day.
I'm telling you, they should have got back Bartolo. Timmy laughs at me.
Absolutely. And I mean, come on. What an amazing dude. When he was with the Yankees, and that was like 2011. I covered that season.
Is he 50
I was like,
yet?
this got to be it for him. This is it. This guy, all right. So he did okay for half a year. He's done. I mean, yes, absolutely. He should be a Met. He'd be the number 2 pitcher on the stand right now.
Everyone kept saying, oh, you have too many pitching. But Bartolo is the type of guy who just walks in. He has a rubber arm. He gets hit in the baseball in his belly and makes a play. Come on. I saw that play. I was like,
it's a shock absorber.
Yeah, exactly.
On,
it's like hitting a big piece of foam rubber. It just goes right in.
Lose a baseball in there. You probably pulled out a different ball. It's something that's been sitting there for months.
Oh, that's like something in the ivy in Wrigley Field. Oh,
yeah, but exactly.
Here's one that has Bart.
Another one in here. Don't worry about it.
He's like throwing one into the infield. It's got Bart Giamatti's name on it.
Now, the other side of the coin, Wally, is the Yankees. They're playing really steady, really good baseball. I hate to say it as a Met fan, but they're playing really good baseball. It's tough to hate them. It's not like the arrogant Yankees of other times.
It's the kids. It's all kids.
Well, that's part of it, yeah. So,
except for CeCe, who's 72 years old.
Yeah, CeCe and Brett Gardner, who's also ancient by their standards now. But I mean, that's another problem with the Mets. They don't have a lot of kids on the roster, and they don't have a lot of kids down on the farm. I mean, basically, the window for this team is was 10 years ago. Yeah. If they don't win this year, I don't know what happens to them. I mean, they got to absolutely rebuild from the beginning. And the Yankees, this is so un-Yankee-like for them to have. They have the second youngest roster in baseball right now, which is unheard of. Usually it's the other way around. They have the oldest roster,
right, and the most expensive.
To be good for a long time, which is very, very unusual for the Yankees.
The one thing, just to kick it back to the Mets for 1 second, when they signed Jose Bautista, I'm sure you saw the stat that the Mets were claiming that they had the most All-Stars on their roster of any team in the major leagues.
Yeah, I saw
that.
But then when you saw the names, but when you saw the names, David Wright, Jose Bautista, Adrian Gonzalez, and I'm like, oh my God, all these guys are at least 35, and none of them are effective players anymore.
Right. In 2005, this is a fabulous team.
Exactly.
Well, David Wright.
Actually, I don't think the Bautista move is that bad, though. Because it's low risk. They don't have to pay him much. Maybe they'll get something out of him. And he hasn't been terrible as a Met. He's been okay. He's been especially good in the field.
And that's...
Compared to what they had out there, it's really not that bad, and I will actually watch him come to the plate.
Exactly. He's obviously not the player he used to he he's probably better than a lot of what they had there. So,
well, I think David Wright. I'd like to see him come back. I'm not sure what if
he played catch. He played catch this week.
Yeah, I know. So I saw him on being interviewed. I hope he gets one more shot before his back just totally.
His back is.
It's just hard to believe that he will. I mean, nobody even asks. It's kind of like a standard thing. Every pregame or postgame interview with the manager, you ask, so what's the status of Todd Frazier? What's the status of Cespedes? How's Swarzak doing? Nobody says, how's David Wright doing? It almost seems stupid. It's like asking how Ellsbury doing.
what injury?
Reasons. I don't mean to put them in the same category at all.
Right, but what injury are the Yankees going to create for Ellsbury next?
He's incredible. Really, can you imagine calling into your boss every 3 days and saying, "I want to work today, but today my left toe hurts, and
I don't feel good.
Tomorrow it's my finger, and then next week it'll be." I mean, it's just, is there any embarrassment involved in this? I wonder.
Well, I mean, from his standpoint, I would assume not. Only because they don't have a plan for him. So what are they going to do?
No, they don't. They have no spot for him. Who are you going to sit down?
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's. I mean, the only solution to this is for either for the Yankees to trade him, and to do that, they're obviously going to have to eat 90% of his contract.
And not only, I mean, he's not even. He doesn't even have anything to recommend. Like why would another team look at Ellsbury and say this is a guy that we need at this point? I mean, you can't trust him to stay on the field. And even when he was on the field, he wasn't always that productive. I'm sorry. I mean, this was a mistake.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, I said it when they signed him. I thought it was a mistake. But
well, it was. It was clearly a reaction to letting Cano get away.
Yeah. But I mean, the only redeeming quality for Ellsbury is that in the last couple of months of last season, he was pretty good. I'm not going to say he was great. He was pretty good. He showed that he can still be a serviceable major leaguer. But you're still looking at that enormous salary that he's not even close to being worth.
And listen, there's no denying it now. Whether it's bad luck or whatever, the guy cannot stay on the field.
True.
All right, and he came here from Boston with that reputation, and a lot of us looked at the injuries in Boston and said, wait a minute. The guy did a head-first slide and tore up his shoulder. I mean, that's a legitimate injury, and he was out a long time with that. But then when he came here, it's like every little thing seemed to take 6 weeks,
right?
No matter what it was. And after a while, it becomes a pattern, and you wonder, exactly what's going on with a guy like that. But there's no doubt. I mean, he had one very serious, legitimate injury as a Yankee. He ran into the wall last year and got a concussion, and that cost him a couple of months.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, we're not even sure what the hell's wrong with him now. It started back, then it was hip, then it was plantar fasciitis, then it was back again. I mean, what's going on with this?
Now it just has next to his name parentheses injured.
Exactly. It's just like overall, he hurts.
Yes.
Okay. Body soreness.
Yes. Upper body, lower body.
We're talking with Wally Mathews. He writes for Forbes magazine. He writes for the New York Times. He has his own podcast, NYNYBaseball. How's that going? Because last time we talked to you, you didn't have the podcast.
Yeah, it's fun.
How is that different than doing other things? Because I know you had a radio show, but podcast is a little different because
kind of similar. It's kind of similar to a radio show. The thing that I prefer about a radio show is that you get immediate feedback. Obviously you take calls and you get to talk to the listeners. But otherwise, same thing. I mean, we try to have a good guest every week. We had Keith Hernandez, we had Ron Darling, we had Brett Gardner, we had David Cohn, we had John Sterling. We were the first ones to get his Giancarlo Stanton call on the air before Stanton hit a home run. So that was a big thing for us. We're going to have Ken Rosenthal tomorrow, and next week the one and only Susan Waldman. So we've had some good guests, and my co-host Dan Canobio is very knowledgeable, and we have some fun. We kick around the issues, and hopefully it'll catch on. I think if people give a listen to it, they'll like it.
And what's the website, or is it on iTunes, or what is it?
It's on iTunes. Yes, yes. You can get it on iTunes. There's also an Android app for it. And I'm sorry, I'm too old to know the names of these things.
Oh, that's
You'll have to figure it out. You know what you got to do? Follow my Twitter feed at Oyster Bay Bomber, and I will post the link daily to make sure people sign up.
Well, Timmy's on Twitter. We'll set it up a little later. Yeah. Go to Timmy's account.
Wally's a very good follow on Twitter also. So.
We try to have some.
He actually responds to the
boredom of a 14-inning game.
Yeah.
Well,
Twitter's good for that.
I was watching that game on Saturday in between trying to find the hockey game, which somehow was on NBCSN.
Yes.
A final.
That?
Yeah, I know.
Channel 314 on my system.
It's two something on the Cablevision or Altice or whatever you're calling it now. But I'm looking for the game for the Islanders. I mean, for the final. I'm like, there's Dateline repeat on NBC. There's reruns on CNBC and MSNBC, and they have it only on NBCSN. And I'm saying, Gary Bettman, you got to do a better contract to make sure at least the finals are on a major network.
Yeah, you would think. You think that you want your showcase event to be seen by as many eyeballs as possible.
Right.
Very true.
But then I was watching, the Mets at the same time, and I'm like,
Too bad they didn't bury that on NBC.
Well, it would have been better. Let's put it that way. But the thing that got me is that, again, and Timmy gets angry with me when I bring this up. I want to ask your opinion on this.
Here we go.
Do you think analytics has taken over baseball in the sense that, here's a guy he only gave up 1 run. He was pitching really good, and they take him out in the 7th. Let him pitch another 2 innings. Is there such thing as a complete game in baseball anymore? That's my other question.
There really isn't. But listen, you know what? I'm not sure because watching the game and DeGrom pitched beautifully, but he was at 116 pitches, which to these days is like almost a full week's work.
Right.
Was the most pitches he had thrown all year. I can kind of see it because you don't have a lot of money invested in him because, he's still fairly affordable, but you do have a lot invested in him in terms of he's your ace, and your team's not scoring anyway. I could kind of see it, but as to the question of whether analytics is taking over baseball, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, guys that in terms of analytics, and I talked to David Cohn about this because he's a huge analytics guy, but these days, like a guy like Greg Maddux wouldn't get a second look.
Nope.
Guys that certain guys who don't, who don't have the right launch angle wouldn't have gotten a second look. Who are probably in the Hall of Fame today, and it's crazy because too much of the game is based on quantitative analysis and not just simply watching the game. Like, for instance, like a Brett Gardner, who I think is a really valuable player for the Yankees. The analytics guys would probably hate him because as a leadoff hitter, he doesn't get on really enough. He strikes out a little bit too much. But if you watch the game, you say, hey, you know what? This guy comes out hot every single night, gets on base, works the count, wears down pitchers. This is the kind of guy you want at the top of your lineup. But you take one of these guys from MIT who's just looking at, a slide rule and never actually watching the game itself, and they would say, get rid of this guy. So, yes, I do think in that sense it's gone too far.
Okay, Wally, we have to say goodbye. We appreciate you coming on and joining us. Your
My pleasure.
Podcast.
Happy anniversry. Do you have a cake or anything?
No cake. Sorry,
no
but
cake.
We'll
give
have
each other flowers.
I just give my brother a brotherly hug.
I'm eating.
Very nice.
I do have a package of ring dings, so
I
there you go.
I might take him out for lunch later.
Put a candle in it, and we're good.
Wow, terrific! You guys should do this like every day. Make up another anniversary.
We'll work it on that. We thank.
All right, boys. I'll see you soon.
We thank Wally Mathews for joining us. New York NYNYBaseball podcast. He also writes for Forbes and the Times. Always good to have Wally on the show. He's always a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And we thank him for joining us. Anyway, just one more thing before we go here. Don't forget about the Lyrical Ladies, a show dedicated to the women in music. Within the last 50 years, from Joni Mitchell to Alicia Keys, these women have left their marks. Anyway, songs these women have written and performed over the years will forever leave an impact on the music industry. Hosted by Becky Davidson. That's Lyrical Ladies every Wednesday at 2 p.m. right here on 90.3 WHPC. And just as a reminder, Tim, now through June 9th at Stu Leonard's on Front Street in East Meadow, all donations made in their wishing well at the front of the store directly benefits everyone here at WHPC.
Dig deep, people.
Anyway, anything you want to add? You got
Cousin Stu.
You got 5 seconds, bro. You have anything?
5 seconds. The Major League Baseball draft is tonight.
Okay.
And the Belmont Stakes, Justify, is going for the Triple Crown on Saturday.
Let's hope. I'd like to see a nice Triple Crown.
Hopefully it doesn't rain.
Yeah, but that's what they're hoping it doesn't do. Anyway, it's rained every weekend, I think, for the last 10 years here. Anyway, coming up next, there's only one Big Ed.
There he is.
His name isn't Little Ed. If he was Little Ed, he'd be down somewhere in the South or something. Little Ed.
Crank it up.
Play a song for us, Little Ed. And he's playing Good Goal coming up at 10 o'clock. Thank you for listening to us, and happy 4th anniversary, brother.
Happy anniversary, brother.
It's been 4 years, and let's go for another 20. Anyway, take care, and bye-bye.
The views expressed on air are not necessarily those of WHPC, its management, or Nassau Community College. Responsible opposing viewpoints will be considered by emailing them to whpc@ncc.edu or by mail at WHPC 1 Education Drive, Garden City, New York 11530. Thanks for listening to the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.